Good morning, freedom fighters. It is 11:32 a.m. East Coast time, June 19th, 2025. Some very unusual activity. I've been around shipping my whole life and I've never seen ships put out any amount of smoke ever unless they're having issues like engine problems. We usually do not deviate. There's no reason for a ship to not go to point A to point B. Several things I want to go over. This is live. The 19th, the 18th, there was weird ship activity off of Los Angeles. While there's a massive hurricane forming in the Pacific Ocean. Sorry for being so raw here. I've been trying to make a video. It keeps glitching out. But at the same time, massive odd ship trails going off, curving out in the Pacific Ocean, way offshore of Alaska. It's so unusual, my friends, these ships to me. You can see them in the daytime, big time. And it just doesn't coexist with the traffic. I wonder if these ships' transponders are off as well. We can go to marine traffic. None of these ships really seem to be deviating in their course. They're just going to point A to point B. Most of them are cargo ships. Amazing they shoot that gap. Plenty of water there, though. But here's a few super tankers that's fuel, but they're going somewhere too, 11 knots. They're not messing around. This other activities like curving. And there's some really crazy sailboats out here in this stuff too, in my opinion. Several of them. Look at this little guy. Could you imagine being out here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and that little thing? Good luck to them. I hope they make it where they're going. Scares me. Unknown destination. I hope they're going to that island right there. Near island. Obviously a port. Anyhow, the whole problem is the ship spraying. What is going on with these guys? Over the United States, our next rad looks like they're having Star Wars games. They got everybody this completely hypnotized to the TV and all this goat show while they're spraying our oceans and our skies. I no longer recognize the weather. Our weather patterns are unrecognizable. Someone that has watched the weather his entire life. And if this video cuts off, I apologize. Everything's so glitchy. They have full control. They're spraying the Pacific Ocean with aircraft too. I could show you where there was aircraft involved in that. At the same time, they're spraying off California with ships and aircraft. I do not remember ships having. Look at all this. 1, 2, 3. All of these are ships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you got them going this way. You talking about making a cloud formation. Some really unusual stuff in the daytime here yesterday, too. The flow I've never seen before that was coming off here while this massive hurricane that's probably killing people right now at 145 is very dangerous. That was nothing 2 days ago. The 18th, it was nothing. And on the 19th, it's 145 mile an hour hurricane. Wait till we have it in Florida here. They've already warned us. My town's already set off 4th of July fireworks show. That was a few weeks back. Over about a month ago now. There's different types of analysis. You know, when people's looking at a painting, are you looking at the picture or are you looking at the brush strokes? I look at the brush strokes. I want to see what the artist was doing. Well, the same thing in this here is like a painting to me. They turn up and turn down this energy at will, creating the weather, pushing it in any direction. It's no longer Oklahoma's turn, it's Tennessee's turn, Alabama, Mississippi, my family in Georgia. Very dangerous storms being produced. Last night it rained such a hard rain last night here at the house. It was crazy, and it just come out of nowhere. Night before last, shrimping, it was such a hard rain I could not see any distance out the boat in any direction. Full radar and spotlights on and all, just so everybody else can visually see me. Light, lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh my goodness, man! Their manipulation they are doing. As soon as they're done with their storm, they turn the energy down. I wonder what their power bill is, or do they even get one? Or they're such part of the system that they don't get charged for the energy. Probably just backs down to us. But all this energy's turned up because of this weather. And we're shadow banned on every level. They will not allow this out to the masses. This information is hidden that they can control the weather. The liability would be too great. Every one of my videos shows the evidence, the patents. My last video, not the one from the shrimp boat, but the previous two, shows what their technology is. Just keep beating a dead horse here, but we're in such trouble, and all their little tools in their basket of what they could do to us. Mad Hatter disease was real. It was just a chemical. They could spray something on us that would just completely destroy us. They sprayed for days out here, the 17th. These ships are going north. They're not even part of the part of the marine traffic. Nothing's going north here. These vessels transponders are turned off. In my opinion, they are not on. You can see how they're working to the north. The cloud cover hides them, then it kind of clears out enough you can see them on the next day here. But it's hundreds of ships, in my opinion. I can't even count them, and they're going in different directions. That one's going this way. See, he's going that way, and he's making another little turn. It's hundreds of ships, my friends. It's got to be hundreds of ships attacking us. I've never really seen such events while they have everybody distracted here in the United States. Oh my God, it's global. They're all part of it. There's no borders with these rulers. All going on at the same time off the United States and Mexico where all the storms are happening. These sandstorms off Africa is not by accident. They're on purpose for whatever reason. Let's go back a couple days here. Watch this storm develop. And this incredible flow that was happening here. Let's go and put it on. But yesterday, this flow that took place had a spin here. The storm really wasn't doing anything. I'm going to just bump it up myself. It's a little too slow. But yesterday evening, here's all the ships offshore here spraying. Yesterday evening, this here became some kind of flow like I've never seen before. Right there. See this opening? Watch that. See the ripples? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They turned some kind of machine on here. Massive machines from land and satellite doing this. I've never seen a flow like this. Well, it look like a lot of fires, New Mexico. Lighted at will. Not any smoke around noon. It all seems to start off at the same time. And these could be from satellites or aircraft. There's plenty of these laser technologies on aircraft as well. Lit massive fire in Mexico across the border at the same time. One is here as well. Funny how all the fires in Canada just stop all of a sudden. I don't see them now. It's just all the pawn pieces are in place. We're almost at checkmate. I don't play much chess, but they have all their pieces in place. And it's funny, globally, I see spraying in Russia, China. Back it up a few hours while it was still daylight on this side of the planet. I have a good video I'd like to share with y'all about what the difference between your standard mile that you use on land and our nautical mile that we use on the ocean and while in flight. If y'all like to, I'll try to stay tuned. Hopefully y'all enjoy that if it'll let me get it in there. Everything's been really weird lately. Look at that. Almost looks chemtraily. Something's weird there. A lot of forms of putting this material up. A lot of different ways. Like I said, my previous video shows a lot of evidence of all of this technologies and their patents if you like to visit them. All my videos show some kind of evidence of the truth. And the truth is we are being controlled by lunatics, complete lunatics, which goes back to live. United Kingdom's talking about blocking out the sun, a $65 million project, which they're a little tiny island, you wouldn't do nothing. And David Yates has documented proof they've been spraying for a decade or two. United States, they're talking about doing a $100 million project of blocking the sun. But we can prove they've been doing it since the testing since the 1940s, been doing it pretty heavy since the 2000s. These projects are nothing new. Looks like some chemtrailing taking place. It is, absolutely. In Canada. Whoops. Oh, thank you for the glitch. All right, I watch Forge with Fire. I don't watch much TV. It has to be pretty good, somewhat real TV. But the poor fella was a military man. He was like, making knives is the only thing that's helped me with my PTSD because of the stuff he's seen in the military. And he says, sad that I've buried more friends from suicidal situations. Hopefully YouTube don't mess with me with that word. Than military situations. I mean, most people are removing themselves. Why would the military be removing themselves? And I heard that was really high in the military. That's bad that our men are not happy when they get out of this thing. This institution we called that was supposed to be built for good. Look how many ships are offshore here at the same time. There's hundreds off of Russia. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, at least 14 trails of ships that's not going anywhere. They're just making clouds, they're making weather in the ocean, poisoning my ocean. It's my life. They destroyed it. Moving on to the nautical mile thing. I like giving you a little bit of information. It's 10 minutes long. Please understand that this is the truth. The earth is not flat. There was never anybody in history thought it was flat until now because of ridiculous videos on YouTube. Standing by. If y'all can't understand the planet, it's not a big deal. It's just what it is. All I've ever done in my life is study. I was never hypnotized by Hollywood. I did not know about these people till I've seen this video. I just happened to look up something and it came up with some stuff I looked up, so I watched it. I already knew what it was, but I was hoping they could explain it good, and they did. They explained it very well and even went in more detail why we use it. Please understand this guy is telling the truth, that the Earth is what it is, and how we measure the Earth is very important. This is how we measure our beautiful planet. Stay tuned for the truth and only the truth from the real fisherman. And thank you to Get to the Point. I did subscribe. Don't let the truth offend you. Let it open your mind to what it is. Let it change you. Standing by.
A mile, a regular mile, is just a stinky, arbitrary unit of length created by the Romans. Mile just means 1,000. Mille passus, literally 1,000 paces, and every 1,000 paces the Romans would slap down a milestone indicating how many miles from Rome you were at that point. There's a difference between miles and nautical miles because they're both trying to solve completely different problems. A nautical mile was invented to help solve what used to be a crazy difficult problem. How can sailors navigate on the open ocean when they can't see anything on the horizon? Now you could use a GPS tracker or a map, but somebody had to be the first person to make the map. And how could you make a map when you can't just put down a milestone and count how many miles it's been? You can't see anything on the horizon. At first, to solve this problem, ancient sailors didn't solve this problem. They just stayed close to coastlines where they could see land and know where they were going. If they needed to head out into the wide open water, they would probably be doing it on like an inland sea, like the Mediterranean, and it might only be a couple of days before they reach landfall. Oh my goodness, look at that, it's the Phoenician trade routes. They would literally coastal hop between landmarks, and then when they were due south of something that they wanted to get to, they just followed the North Star upwards until they reached it. Even on this path to Sardinia, they would just follow the North Star north to Sardinia, like that. But this started to change around the year, well, like the late 1400s. Actually, more specifically, the Portuguese are discovering something interesting.
In 1434, the Portuguese mariner Gil Eanes is the first to sail around the dreaded Cape Bojador on the coast of the Western Sahara.
They conquered Algarve, and then they went south to Morocco and conquered this little town called Ceuta, and then they went south along the Moroccan coast, and then they were like, whoa, it just keeps going. We can just keep following this. They kept going around Africa, and like years, like 20 years before Columbus ever set sail, they were like sailing around the Gulf of Guinea. They kept going all the way to South Africa, literally before Columbus. Staying close to the African coastline is really inefficient in a sail ship because of the way the currents and the winds in the Atlantic work. So it's way more efficient to swing out towards Brazil and then round South Africa in the middle of the open ocean.
Einfall der Mongolen hat den Europäern die Seidenstraße.
The invasion of the Mongols opened the Silk Road to Europeans. The collapse of the Mongol Empire closed it to them again. But by then, Europeans had acquired an appetite for goods and merchandise of the Orient. So they looked for new routes to the Far East.
People in Europe at the time wanted this luxurious, delectable, sexy thing called spices. At the time, they got it by paying a fat sum to the Ottoman Empire or the Venetians because they controlled the trade of the spices coming from India into Europe. European peasants are eating this really bland food. They didn't even have pepper. Yeah, it's fashionable for kings to eat spicy shit, and the Ottomans are making like huge profits, basically profiteering off of the spice trade, because it's a monopoly at this point. Meanwhile, the Portuguese looked at the best atlas that they had at the time and thought that there's this blank spot on the bottom. If they could find a way around Africa, then they could get to India and bypass the Ottomans and their money-shaving grift. But back to the winds and currents in the Atlantic, it was challenging. Yeah, you needed some sort of like tool or a map to go out into the middle of the open ocean. The Portuguese invented this thing called the mariner's astrolabe. You could use it to calculate your latitude, how far north or south on the globe you are, because you basically find a fixed point, like the sun or a star that you know. At a certain time of year, the sun is going to be at a predictable angle at the equator, and a predictable angle north of the equator. so you can tell how far north or south you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like at noon, the sun is at its highest point in the sky, and you can measure how high it is above the horizon, and the higher the sun, the closer you are to the equator. So with the astrolabe, you can now make better maps, but they're still kind of medieval looking. Navigating the open ocean still requires a lot of guesswork. What if you could make latitude super accurate? Like, what if you literally knew the exact circumference of the entire planet so that you could calculate distances perfectly? If you look at a modern Mercator projection, if you draw a straight line between 2 points, you can follow those coordinates in a ship and you'll get to where you want to go, despite the 2D map showing a 3D world. That's why Mercator looks the way it does, because the poles obviously shrink in on the sphere. Like, some people sometimes point out that Mercator is like an imperialist project to like make Africa look smaller than it is and make Sweden look bigger than it is. But yeah, that's just an unfortunate side effect. So basically the problem that Renaissance navigators are facing is that they're trying to depict this massive spherical planet onto a two-dimensional map when they have no idea how to calculate the circumference of the Earth and know exact distances. Like, your straight line on a modern map actually looks like this on a curved Earth.
Mm-hmm.
In comes a Dutchman with a fantastic name, who decides to take on the gargantuan task of measuring the Earth. Willebrord Snellius rediscovered that it actually wouldn't be that difficult. The reason I say rediscovered is because there was this ancient Greek polymath called Eratosthenes who actually calculated and discovered the circumference of the Earth 200 years before Jesus lived. But it was more or less lost to time, and I guess it wasn't terribly useful for ancient people yet because they weren't sailing into the open ocean very often. By the way, there's a misconception that we think medieval people didn't know the Earth was a sphere. They did. They knew it was a sphere. It wasn't. They didn't think it was a flat Earth. Yes, okay, so
they were calling Columbus stupid, not because he thought the Earth was round, but because he thought the Earth was, like, skinny and egg-like, and India was right there, and there was no such thing as the Americas.
Columbus thought the Earth was an egg.
Yeah, and he had, like, he kind of just had a hunch that there would be land out there. I know, that's the craziest thing.
Okay, so I digress. Ole Snellius climbs up to the top of a church steeple in the Netherlands and measures the angles between him at the top of the steeple and other known objects in the distance. The Netherlands is flat, I'm not sure if you've heard, so if you get up like 50 meters, you can see the church steeples of other towns pretty clearly. So he calculated the angles between them, as well as the angle of the sun at various times of the year, and his final result ended up being only about 1% smaller than the actual circumference of the Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, he nailed it. You too can make this calculation today if you want.
Climb to the top of a tall building.
Climb to the top of a tall building and look out. And
let us know in the comments section.
let us know in the comments section.
Climb to the top of a tall building and calculate the circumference of the Earth.
Okay, so now that you more or less know the circumference of the Earth, combine that with the increasingly accurate maps that you've got, and you can create a geo-positioning system. Let's explain how. In 1620, the Englishman Edmund Gunther thought that the best navigation system would be one directly linked to that circumference and to latitude. If you remember from math class, a circle has 360 degrees.
Wow.
So Gunther roughly took Snellius's measurement, divided it by 360, and calculated that 1 degree of Earth's distance, Earth's circumference, is about 352,000 feet, which is 66 2/3 miles. If you divide that number by 60 to make it more digestible, then you get Gunther's nautical mile. The nautical mile was a piece of the circumference of the Earth, and it was very close to a regular mile. So with that calculation that Gunther made, you can now be anywhere on Earth, measure the angle of the sun or the stars to determine your latitude, and then make a way more accurate map because you can actually know your distance from things. Snellius's calculation of Earth's circumference wasn't actually quite accurate, so neither was Gunther's nautical mile though. But it didn't matter. The methodology of 1/60th of 1 degree of Earth's circumference is what a nautical mile is. But that's not the end of it. So France and the metric system. would have the last laugh. But I sort of fibbed earlier. The Earth isn't technically a sphere, it's kind of like an obloid... What is that word? Oblate spheroid. It's an oblate spheroid. So it's a bit flatter at the poles and a bit more bulging at the equator.
Like me.
Because the Earth is not a sphere, 1/60th of a degree of latitude is not the same distance everywhere on Earth. So different countries ended up having ever so slightly different lengths for a nautical mile, depending on their calculations. France liked to standardize measurements and said this is stupid, and so they defined it as 1,852 meters, which was based on their definition of the meter as 1/10,000,000th of a quarter meridian, basically a quarter chunk of Earth's circumference.
Wow.
All the metric countries got together in 1929 in Monaco and agreed on this length as the international standard for a nautical mile. It took a lot longer for the US and Britain to get the memo, as always. It was 1954 for the US and 1970 until the British adopted the International Nautical Mile.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And there it is. Ships and also airplanes are now able to navigate around the spherical globe, the more or less spherical globe, using flat maps and coordinates on those flat maps that are super accurate based on a mathematical ratio established by the nautical mile.
Wow, what an interesting fact you have just delivered straight from your mouth to my brain.
They did a fantastic job putting that together. Explains in great detail. And yes, our latitude and longitude changes at the top of the sphere. It's hard to measure something that's not perfectly round and a ball. Thank you, warriors. For the ones that are still standing by, you must be still interested in what I have to show. But I made a video from the Skyway Bridge rest area. This is a what we call a range marker for shipping. Channel markers over here. This is telling there's a shoal. I might have should have showed this at the beginning, but I want to show you why we have crow's nests on pirate ships. The Coast Guard still uses them. They were watching us from their crow's nests, and we could not see the cutter. And at dark, they came and boarded us. I'm like, he's like, we've been watching you all day. I'm like, from where? He says, over the horizon. But here's from ground level, and here's the same area. Not quite a zoom in. They might be over more zoom spot. But you can see how much more of the tripod you can see or the range light. It's extremely different in height. I wish it was a little more zoomed in on this part. Maybe it does. I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't ever really zoom in on it up top. But you can see the bottom half of the range marker from the top of the thing I'm on. And our crow's nest would be even much higher. You know what I mean? And if I went to water level, I wouldn't even see the tripod at all, or the range light bottom. But let me play the whole thing. You can kind of see St. Pete, the difference in the city from ground level and up about 20 feet. And like I said, a crow's nest might be 50, 60 foot up. I've seen some masses on, I've been on the U.S. Coast Guard Eagle. It's a massive sailing vessel. I've been on that vessel. And their crow's nest is like 100 feet up. How much more of the over the horizon you would see at 100 feet compared to somebody on deck would be huge. But I want you to realize why we have crow's nests on vessels is to see over the horizon farther. It doesn't take in nothing to do with binoculars. It's crazy just to think. And you know, when my moon disappears, my tide comes back. The horizon is like a big wall. It lets the water come back. But anyhow, let's watch this 2-minute video. I didn't really say much because it was so loud, but you can really see the illusion they called where the ship's on top of the water. Instead of me trying to say the name of it, here it is. But I've seen it my whole life. It's always been very neat to see in real life as well. But what we are looking at here is the city of St. Pete, where the illusion starts about right here, where it looks like it's starting to be above the horizon. Thank you to the Warriors at 30 Minutes. You're going to see something people don't ever really see that lives on land. But here's the mirror effect of the water and the clouds. Looks like buildings floating, right? Very easy. I say build just a causeway up there with a tree or something. There's some trees on that next road. That's a causeway. But this is St. Pete, and we're going to see Tampa in the distance as well, over the horizon. Just the buildings are sticking up. There's that range light and some channel markers that you couldn't see at lower levels at all. But the city of Tampa with just a skyscraper sticking up. Not sure the distance there. If I have time, I'll check and see exactly how far it is from the Skyway to Tampa, Florida. But St. Pete, Florida, Tampa, Florida. Just showing you what I see, and this is Tampa Bay, where you can actually have a lot of different distances of the land because the way it goes away from you. You can see the full illusion. Tampa, there's not very many buildings in Tampa. You can almost count them. It almost looks like looks weird there, actually. Oh, they got them spaced apart. Oh, now we're at ground level. That's what it was. I had walked down. Now you can see the huge difference. Huge difference in this shoreline and that shoreline. But at 20 foot lower. Huge difference. That's why we have a crow's nest, though. Let's not to forget the point of the video. And I don't know if I ever... Even the bridge looks totally different at a lower level. You got that mirror effect a lot sooner now. That's that would be St. Pete there as well, but it's the beach side. Thank you, Warriors. To say the least, we are in trouble. I was just trying to pass along a little knowledge. Thank you to the ones that are still with me at 32 minutes. These storms are very dangerous. I've seen hail, tornado activity, fires already, and everything like I've never seen before. Downpours in Florida, heavy amounts of rain. They're like, no, our drought's fine. No, we got all our rain in 2 hours. Our drought's not fine. We haven't had any rain all year. They just made it rain so heavy that the rain thing's full. Nightmares, my friends, knowing what I know. Electrical storms like I've never seen here in Florida taking place. That's 1 hour of lightning strikes. Everybody be safe in these incredible storms. Commercial Fisherman standing by. Our beautiful planet. It worries me when I see them clear this out, what's going on. Our hurricane season is going to be very dangerous. Pray for the people in Mexico. 145-mile-an-hour winds are no joke. Our beautiful planet's been controlled by lunatics. Commercial Fisherman standing by. Y'all have a good day, good night, good morning, or good evening, whatever timeline you happen to be on. Commercial Fisherman out.